Differently abled, differently.
Welcome back. Hussein has lived to tell the tale of the effect on violence. While at it, he is raising awareness in the pastoralist communities. Take a look at that story.
Pastoral communities have always faced risks such as political marginalization, harsh climate conditions, and violent internal and external conflicts that often leads to dire consequences.
Nondo was established by persons with disabilities from pastoralist background way back in 2010, and it was basically to cater for the special needs of persons with disabilities from nomadic background. This was the first NGO which was established to cater for the needs of persons with disabilities, which was not reached by most of other disability organizations which were there then. So we look at the pastoral background, the vulnerability of people in such remote areas, the difficult lifestyle which the people there lead, and the special, the severe needs of persons with disabilities. You can imagine community which is always on the move, moving with the herds of livestock from place to place in search of pasture and water. And if someone is disability, it becomes very difficult. You have to be carried on the back of camel or donkeys. So most of the time, people now take those persons with disabilities to the nearest settlements. And in most cases, they end up staying with maybe relatives, distant relative or whatever, because it is very difficult for their immediate communities who could be in the bush to take care of them. That's the situation.
As the chairperson of the Northern Nomadic Disabled Persons Organization Alliance Nondo, Hussein Borle narrates of his ordeal as a victim of war.
Borle was born to a nomadic family in northern Kenya, specifically Garissa. He spent his childhood in the pastoral background, looking after herds of cattle, camel, and goats with his family, where lifestyle of nomadism, where people shift from place to place in search for pasture and water. That's where I grew my childhood until an incident happened way back in 1973 while I was at the age of 12 years, where our village was attacked by raiders from other communities. They raided Manyata during a night, actually down, and 8 members of our village were killed, and I was injured severely with spears, and I sustained spinal injury, which has resulted in my disability. So initially I still survive and live in the nomadic pastoral community for some time, and thereafter I was taken to several hospitals. Remember those days there was very few facilities to cater for complications such as the one I had. So after hospitalization, I lost my, after the injury and I lost my limbs, is when I started schooling now in a place called Garissa Boys Town, which was run by a missionary. As the chair of the board of Nondo, our work is to oversee the work that's been done by the Secretariat of Nondo. We are responsible for policies and oversight, but the Nondo Secretariat is the one which now does the day-to-day administrative role. So ours is to be spokesperson of the organization, and at the same time with the overall policy direction.
Armed conflicts generate new disabilities, worsen the existing barriers faced by persons with disabilities, and expose the whole community to greater harm.
Conflicts lead to disability. It is a cause. If the person now, so many are killed, others are maimed, So there are so many people who become disabled as a result of conflict. And again, when there is conflict and a person with disabilities among the community become vulnerable, because people will run away and they are not able to. So in most of the time, again, they are the ones who are disadvantaged, and all those displacement, they are the most affected. So actually conflict is something which is very detrimental to the life and survival of persons with disabilities.
As an organization that advocates for inclusion and participation rights of persons with disabilities in Kenya's 12 nomadic counties, Nondo focuses on 4 thematic areas.
Our aim was to try to advocate for the needs of persons with disabilities, to look for partners, and mostly we have around 4 thematic areas that we look into. The medical area or health, education, issue of livelihood support, and also the issue of representation, governance, and leadership. All this we want persons with disability to be fully integrated. So we are looking for inclusivity of persons with disabilities, especially under the devolved now governance system which is there in Kenya. Of the 4 thematic areas, ours is to make sure that there is inclusivity approach to the service provision. Like health, we are talking about accessible health facilities, both in terms of physical access to those who are physically disabled, and also in terms of communication, provision of maybe sign language, at least disability-friendly environment, and also sensitization of the service providers to understand the special needs of persons with disabilities. Those are the areas where our advocacy is involved, and also having, the rehabilitation programs to try to intervene when there are persons with a disability.
The Desert Will Race is among the inclusive programs practiced by the Northern Nomadic Disabled Persons Organization.
We thought of how we can now sensitize the communities, especially in the pastoralist communities, about the need for cohesiveness and peaceful coexistence. That's how we came up with the wheelchair peace race, the one which we are now is usually called Desert Will Race, which we annually do in Siolo since 2012. Although the Desert Will Race is the one which is very prominent and visible, but we have other engagement. Usually we have, first day we have a workshop where we talk about disability and under the devolved governance system. Then after that we have a night which we call the fashion show, where now girls and ladies with a disability do fashion show. And that's the fashion show we have been having now for, I think, in the last 4 years, and it is very good. People have been participating, and we usually select now every year the Miss Nondo winner. Like this year, the winner was coming from Garissa. She was a deaf lady. Another year was here.
Hussein says the only way he has been able to cope is through acceptance and the existence of an integrated society.
Disability is a serious issue which impacts on individuals. And it's true, I got my disability during a very early childhood stage. But all the same, I think first of all what I will say has helped me was that I was in an environment where people have accepted my condition, both from the immediate parents and also from the society.
Additionally, he believes in a comprehensive approach towards countering war and its impacts.
We are talking of way back over 50 years ago when the incident that has led to my disability has taken place. And even up to now, you will always hear of clashes happening here and there, in mostly the pastoralist regions of the country. And I think we need a comprehensive approach. It should not only be treated as maybe a security issue, where we react to when something happens, but we need to look at the root causes.
Hussein is proud of the great milestones some of the counties such as Wajir have made in terms of inclusion.
As a country, we are not badly off. At least we have a Disability Act. There is also a disability policy, which is, I think, still in draft form and has gone through public participation. And we have a national, National Council for Persons with Disability, which also is a government agency that is responsible for persons with disability. All those are things which have come up within maybe the last 15 years or so. And Kenya is also a signatory to the UN Convention on Rights of Persons with Disability, which has obligation to promote and protect the rights of persons with disability under the convention. Disability inclusion under the devolved governance, we are not doing very well. Most counties are very much behind inclusion as required. Whereas actually devolution should have actually promoted inclusivity, because the very essence of devolution was to promote inclusivity. But you will find most counties, people are saying disability is not a default function, and this is not a function. You see, people with disability live all over the country, and you have to cater for them just like the rest of the society. You have to make provision in the policies and programs that the counties have undertaken. So most counties are lagging behind. Like, for instance, you will find there is provision in the Constitution and other acts that every county has to have 2 persons with disability as in the respective county assemblies. But you will find most counties don't have. Like, I think currently over 21 county assemblies do not have representation of persons with disability, despite the provision of the law. So the provision is one thing, but actual implementation is another. In most cases, implementation is lagging behind the legislation and the constitutional provisions. But people at different levels. Some counties in our region now, the pastoralist areas where Nondo covers, we have been trying to develop a checklist where we can rate and compare different counties, the level of disability inclusivity. Some counties have made good milestones. I will particularly mention Wajir County, where they have a Disability Act, where they have a fund for persons with a disability which is established through the Act. They have disability representation up to the level of CEC and Chief of SAS. They had it throughout their 3 administrations so far. But most other counties, they are either having 1 or 2 of those or none.
In his parting shot, Hussein advocates for an extensive sensitization of war and its impacts.
The issue of conflicts and how it disrupts lives, and as a person who has lived with a disability, as a result of conflict, I will say we need a mass sensitization of peaceful coexistence among the communities in northern Kenya the pastoralist areas, where we have to see this as something which is, it's actually, it is a terrible past practice that people should just forget. Should live together. We are bound to live together as neighbors, as, I think it pains me to hear every year that such place, conflicts have taken place, people have injured. It will make you actually relieve the pain which you have suffered during your own injury. So it is something which I will love if it can end. And we'll keep on as Nondo preaching peace and peaceful coexistence among the pastoralist areas.